What colour is the universe?
Magnolia.
Everything's magnolia.
It's very spacious, you see, so you want a light colour, but you want to be overpowering if it was white.
You might do a dark ceiling just to bring it in a bit.
Yeah,
I was going to say...
it's deceptive, the universe, because from the outside, if you're God, it looks quite small. But when you're in there, it's really quite spacious, with plenty of storage.
You're very, very, very close, I have to say. It's not quite magnolia.
Beige.
Absolutely right, 10 points. It is, in fact, beige, the universe. Brilliant.
Not to the naked eye, though.
Not to the naked eye, I quite agree, but it is official. Last year, after analysing the light from 200,000 galaxies, American scientists announced that the universe was pale green, not black with silvery bits, as it appears to us. Taking the Dulux paint range as a standard, it was somewhere between Mexican mint, jade cluster, and Shangri-La silk. However, to the embarrassment of the American astrophysical community, a few weeks after announcing their discovery to the American Astronomical Society, they had to admit that they'd actually made a mistake in their calculations, and the universe was, in fact, more a sort of taupe or beige colour. I thought it was gay whisper with a touch of amber glow, which are my favourite... this is my pancake colour. It's called gay whisper. Did you know that? It actually is. Literally true. Gay whisper.
Is gay whispers like Chinese whispers?
Only more fun. What was the job of Aristocles? Aristocles, better known to his friends as Wide Boy. It also means flat, oddly enough. It means wide and flat.
Flatulence.
What's a flat-billed sort of animal called?
Duck-billed platypus.
Plato is the answer.
Plato is the answer?
Yes, his real name was Aristocles, and he was known as the Wide One.
Plato's real name was Aristocles.
Aristocles. He was nicknamed Plato. There he is.
Oh, my word, he went to a terrible sculptor. It must be so upsetting when you... when they put the mirror behind you and pull it out like that.
May I ask who sculpted you last, sir? Yeah, well, Plato was indeed the schoolboy nickname of Aristocles, from the Greek wide, and it was given to him because of his broad shoulders. His real name was Aristocles, and Aristocles taught Aristotle. And what did Aristotle teach us, the world, about buzzards?
Oh, this will be something absurd, because...
He did say something absurd
It'll be ridiculous. It'll be something
It's
like
not
they
the soul
can
of the
read our
grand
minds
animal,
or something like that.
No, I'll tell you what it is, actually.
He felt that there were birds who didn't realise they were buzzards, and it was building up inside that they were latent buzzards.
Latent. Way hey. You get 5 for something there. I don't quite know what it is, Ron, but you get 5 for some... I'll tell you the answer. Actually, he thought they had 3 testicles.
Oh, you see, this is the
thing,
sort of thing he comes out with all the time. He's very overrated. Even though he knew a good sculptor, he looks all right there. Yeah. Look at the robe on him.
There's a really interesting thing I can tell you about buzzards, on the other hand. The Latin for buzzard, its taxonomical name is buteo, right? Now, there's a sort of, as it were, a subspecies of buzzard called a hobby, and it is subbuteo.
Oh, God.
Subbuteo.
Oh. And the man who invented a game wanted to call it the hobby, and when he tried to patent it, they wouldn't let him use the word the hobby, so he called it after the Latin name for the hobby, which is subbuteo.
And that's why one is kicking a little testicle around the ball.
If you like. How it all comes back.
Amazing.
That's where the name subbuteo comes from.
It must be great to be a philosopher. None of us could sit there and count the testicles on a buzzard and really explain it or justify it. What are you doing? I'm counting the balls on a buzzard. Some better things. Well, I'm a philosopher. Oh, well, go ahead.
Yeah. Did you know that the Pope, when the Pope is elected, still has to have this ceremony in the Vatican? After the Pope is elected, the Pope is carried over a group of the cardinals. And now, of course, the Pope actually doesn't display himself, but in days gone by, he would display himself. And the cardinals, this still happens to this day, when the Pope is crowned, the cardinals, the Pope is carried on a chair over the cardinals, and they look up and they say, testiculos habet et bene pendentes.
No.
This is, yes, it is
He has balls and he's well hung?
No.
Bene
It means that they are well hung. They are hanging well. And it
Yeah.
goes back to the time of Pope Joan, when a girl masqueraded as a young pope. And since that's when the ceremony was introduced. And so the tradition continues to this day.
Fabulous, 5 points, brilliant, I love it. Well done. What do you think is the largest thing that a blue whale can swallow?
Another blue whale.
Surely this then would lead one to think you're leading us down a line there of a very small thing, because it's so big, and it'd be a very, very tiny thing. But I'd say something huge.
Kebab.
Yeah, a kebab.
Sideways.
Maybe is it a conceptual question? The blue whale, a very vain animal, perhaps the largest thing it has to swallow is its pride.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Or a very gullible animal will swallow
They're
anything.
vegetarian, though, aren't they, blue whales?
No, they're not
Are they
vegetarian.
not?
No, it's
But they eat fish, but, you know...
that's sort of, krill, in fact, is
And
the
they sieve it. They
particular
have a
name.
sieve system through their teeth.
They do sieve because the little krill are very, very small. In fact, it comes from the Dutch meaning, very small thing.
It takes ages.
Shrimps. I didn't know you did a blue whale.
I was doing a blue whale sieving its krill.
Everything right, except...
Do you know what? I've never seen that.
Everything right except the hands. Very good.
I reckon they could probably get a ping pong ball down their neck.
Yes. Ping pong ball is
Egg,
right.
something like an egg.
Egg, you're on the right lines.
A lobster.
Nothing bigger than a grapefruit.
Really?
They have tiny, tiny throats, and they can't expand them much. Well, they're the same size as their navels, about the size of a small side plate.
So they could be a supermodel. That's their kind of same diet, isn't it?
Basically.
Yeah, except they're big fat. and yes,
Except that they do eat 3 tons
Yes,
of krill every
yeah.
day.
It's all because they have the biggest brain in the world, don't they? They're most enormous. But all they do with this huge brain is to lie in the water with their mouth open, sieving little bits of food.
Well,
so they're not really
they
exploiting
call
their
to
brain.
each other, covering 10,000 miles. Their voices can be heard. That's pretty impressive.
No, I've never
with a
heard
mobile
of
phone?
blue whale.
Have you listened?
But
It's
sure,
like a-
10,000 miles underwater.
Yes.
Yeah, but not 6 feet up to the surface, nothing.
There's a blue whale about a mile away going, all right, I'm only here.
The whale song is
Shouting.
very indulgent jazz.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Free form. Next question goes to Alan. What is the connection between the Archbishop of Canterbury's left ear and Adam's belly button?
The ear and the belly. God, just as you said that, there was a painting came up.
We do this, I'm afraid, yeah. I'm not going to ask who did the painting. That would be an insult.
Adam's on the left.
Yes, well done,
That's his belly button there.
it would seem.
And the Archbishop of Canterbury's ear.
Yeah.
The only time I can ever think where you'd put your ear to someone's belly button would be to hear if their tummy was rumbling. You go, your tummy's rumbling, you're hungry, aren't you?
True.
Is that what it is?
I'm afraid... I don't want to astonish you, but I'm afraid it isn't.
Is it because Adam wouldn't have had a belly button, would he, being the first man, and neither of the Archbishops got an idea?
You're
Is that right?
You're really
Yeah,
good.
so he's good, isn't he? I'm going to give him 3 points for that. The fact is, they're both purely decorative. Adam, of course, cannot have had a navel because he was created. He wasn't born, so there wouldn't have been an umbilical cord.
You're saying the Archbishop of Canterbury's left ear is purely
He
decorative?
describes it himself. It's purely decorative. He was born deaf in the left ear, so it has no function.
If his left ear is purely decorative,
Yes.
it's very unimaginative for him just to have an ear there, isn't it? He really could have had anything he wanted there at all. A donut or another organ, like a hand.
Racket, I would have thought.
Badminton racket or a shuttlecock. A road sign. A little chiclet.
Or rather, sort of surreally, a portrait of Van Gogh.
Yeah, he could have had Van Gogh. You see, that's
That ear
brilliant.
was missing, yeah.
He'd have a little Van Gogh there, saying, as if to say, do you see?
Very good. Well, we've got something out of the wreckage. I'm inclined...
Who painted that picture?
1475 till 1564. I hate myself for saying that. Those are his dates.
He's quite correct.
No,
Michelangelo Buonarroti. We have to give 5 points to Johnny Sessions for knowing the birth and death dates of
That's
Michelangelo.
so sad.
We also have to hate him, incidentally.
Yes.
Very impressed. You can do this. I've done this with John Sessions at parties. When was Bruckner born?
1824, died 1896.
You see? It's right. Isn't it wonderful?
Mahler.
1860, born July the 7th in Caliste in Austria. Died 1911 in Caliste in Austria. It's a horrible sickness.
I met a man the other day who said he was a naval doctor. I didn't know they specialised that much. But according to Rita Mae Brown, if Michelangelo had been heterosexual, the Sistine Chapel would have been painted basic white and with a roller. What noise does the largest frog in the world make? Very good. Very good. That's your answer. Excellent. Answer. Any other thoughts?
Ribbit.
Really loud.
Oh, dear. Who said ribbit? Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Ribbit.
How do you spell ribbit? Oh,
Like
like
that.
that.
Well, that's apparently how you spell it.
That's rabbit in New Zealand. Shooting ribbits.
I will tell you what the sound of the... I can actually give you...
Tell us what you can do it.
I will. I'll give you my party impression.
A metallic noise, like
No.
I'm thinking about.
Oh, no, there are frogs that do that.
Yeah.
No, I'll give you... This is it. It's... No, it isn't that. It's not that at all. No, that's the sound people being amusing, because, in fact, the 3-foot-long Goliath frog of Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea is mute. Entirely mute, makes no noise at all. There are 4,360 known species of frog, but only one of them, in fact, Alan, goes ribbit. Each species has its own unique call. The reason that everyone thinks all frogs, and this is true, the reason that everyone thinks all frogs go ribbit is that ribbit is the distinctive call of the southern Pacific tree frog. This is the frog that lives in Hollywood. Recorded locally, it has been plastered all over the movies for decades to enhance the atmosphere of anywhere from the Everglades to Vietnamese jungles. Frogs actually make a huge variety of noises. They croak, snore, grunt, trill, cluck, chirp, ring, whoop, whistle and growl.
And
they
they
make
say-
noises like sheep. Yes?
They
Yeah.
also say, it's not easy being green.
Less. Frogs make noises like sheep, like cattle, like squirrels and crickets. The barking tree frog yaps like a dog. The carpenter frog sounds like two carpenters hammering nails out of sync. And Fowler's toad makes noises like a band of Red Indians whooping. Most female frogs, like the Goliath frog, make no noise at all.
Because we can't get a bloody word in edgeway.
So this round is all about antelope, or antelopes. A is for antelope and B is for bongo. Apart from the obvious, what is a bongo?
Dave? I'm assuming that, apart from the obvious, assuming that the obvious is some kind of African antelope, then the less obvious answer would be it's a percussive instrument.
Well, now, we assumed that the obvious was a drum, but the answer is yes, it is indeed a type of
But
African
if you introduce the subject as this round is all about antelopes...
You're right. It's a spectacular African forest antelope with a caramel and white striped body, as you see there. Much prized by poachers. There are only 100 reckoned to be left on the planet.
Can I just say there's only 100 people on the planet that understand the works of Jacques Derrida, so do you think they're all bongos?
That is what philosophers call a false syllogism.
Ah.
This programme's gone beyond
Do
me.
you know?
Who's Jacques Derrida, first of all?
Well, you can explain
He's a
Davies.
French philosopher, and I don't understand a f***ing word he wrote.
What's a syllogism?
I know.
Athens is
all
in-
men have bollocks. All men can talk, therefore all men talk bollocks.
Yes. No.
Well, antelope is very bad at plastering, isn't it? Look at that. That's absolutely... He's not let the first coat set before the second coat. That's
Is there
actually
such
true.
a thing as syllogism?
Oh, dear.
Well, like a cheap version of Play-Doh, you mean?
There's a film called Jism. It's just... and I was in... I was going to say that's just come out, but it's a...
Can I just say something that's very strange? Because there's some German chewing gum called Spunk, and you have to be careful you don't swallow it. But in fact, I actually talked about that chewing gum on Clive James's show with you and Princess Diana. Do you remember? Seriously.
That was a dream.
It wasn't.
Rhymes with purple.
Ah. It's like orange, nothing does.
Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, dear. No, there are two words in the English language that rhyme with purple. Two.
Burple.
I won't say everyday words, but there are two words. Now, I'm afraid you have to lose 10 points there.
That's okay.
I'll tell you the answer.
Lurple.
Tent. You won't get there. If you go through all the sounds known to man, you won't get there.
Maple circle.
Maple circle doesn't count.
Circle. Durple, yeah, furple, gurple, herple. Durple, curple, lurple, murple, nurple.
Do you know what you're doing on national television? Mrs. Davis's little boy has grown up to go nurple, burple, wurple.
Rurple, surple.
They're not common words, but...
If you had a swimming pool and you covered it in fur, it'd be a fur pool.
Furple.
It would. I'll tell you the answer. It's herple is one word.
I think I said
You did. Hey, 5 points, Daniel. 5 points, but 5 points taken away if you also mentioned any other sound. To herple is to hobble along with one leg dragging behind the other, halfway between a walk and a crawl. The other word, of course, you could have had was curple.
I think you'll find out.
But didn't I say I'd take 10 points away if there was a second one that you'd already said?
Yes.
Yes, but I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to. Curple is the leather strap passing under a horse's tail.
Under the tail of a horse.
Is buckled to the saddle to stop it slipping forwards. It's better known as a cropper. It's also curple. It's the rump or hindquarters of a horse. Now known as an I'm an idiot. Or now known as the croup. The word appears in a rhyme in the work of Scotland's national poet, and I shall give it to you. Aby mer vonti omahap, dus hinging o'er my curple, than ony ermin everlap, or proud imperial purple. What begins with A, has 6 C's and no B's. Clive.
Is it the Welsh alphabet? Is it... I'm only guessing. You haven't mentioned the L's, which are there.
No L's mentioned. That would be the clincher.
No B's.
No B's as in...
No B's like that.
Or...
So...
Is it 6 C's as in the ocean?
6 C's. 6 C's. With A.
It's America. There are no states in America beginning with B, and then there are 6 C's. There must be California, there are 2 Carolinas, Connecticut. I think there are 6. So I think I've come up with the right, though possibly also wrong answer. But I'm terrifically pleased with it. I don't care if I get any points or not.
No, you don't get points, but you certainly get the admiration of us all.
I'm not feeling admiration.
You were better at it, but on the other hand, let's turn our attention to the question.
Antarctica.
Brilliant, thank you very much. It is the right answer.
Oh, see?
Quite right.
Well, I think I'm right. I'm not accepting this.
But that's not strictly true, is it? Because, of course, you have the Antarctican ice bee.
If you did, then the question would be meaningless.
Yes.
I wouldn't put it beyond you to go now to Antarctica with a bee in a matchbox. Just so you could get a point. And a honeybee. You worked out the thrust of the question.
Yes.
Bees as in buzz, 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 and seas as in oceans. It is bordered by the Ross Sea, the Davies Sea, the Weddell Sea, the Bellinghausen Sea, the Lazarev Sea, and the Amundsen Sea, but not one, as I say, not one little member of the 92,000 hymenopteral bees and wasps exists or has its being in Antarctica.
The what bees?
They form part of the group Hymenoptera.
Hymen?
Hymen. It means wedding in Greek, and there was a myth about the bees. officiating at the wedding of Zeus, which I told you about a few weeks ago, and I remember you being very bored by it then. I'm disappointed that you haven't remembered.
The bees in charge of a wedding?
They catered for the wedding.
Well,
how they came
mainly
up with
honey-based.
They came up with honey. They invented honey specifically for it. Where do the diamonds come from in the world?
South Africa.
Oh, no, he's done it again. No. All the diamonds in the world come from volcanoes. All diamonds are formed under immense heat and pressure, hundreds of kilometres beneath the Earth, and are brought to the surface in volcanic eruptions. 20 countries in the world produce diamonds.
Japan.
Just now, South Africa is only the 5th largest producer after Australia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Botswana, and Russia. You did. Well done, you. Now, here's a quite interesting thing. Diamonds are made of pure carbon, and so is graphite, the stuff that pencils are made from, the lead of a pencil. But with the carbon atoms arranged slightly differently, so slightly differently that diamond is the hardest known substance on Earth, with a score of 10 on the Mohs hardness scale, but graphite is one of the softest...
Like, as in Mo Better Blues?
No, as in MOH, the name of the fellow who gave us this hardness scale. Diamond score 10, and graphite scores very, very low, 1.2 or something like that.
What about Audley Harrison?
He is well off. How many wives did Henry VIII have?
Number 4, please.
6. The 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Just because other people have made the mistake, it's no excuse for you to make it too.
He had 6 wives.
He had major commitment problems, didn't he? I imagine every time he said, "Oh, it's not you, it's me." I suppose they had a trial separation, which involved a brief trial and a very major separation.
Of head from shoulders, exactly right.
It must have been very difficult for the new woman in his life each time, because she'd say, "Oh, I don't know, Henry. Everywhere I look, I just see her face because it's on a pole."
Absolutely, no. Yes.
Can I just say something interesting about
Please
Henry
do.
VIII?
Yes.
Right, when he died and his body was moved from Greenwich up to wherever it went, Selfridges or somewhere.
Maybe Westminster Abbey. We'll check on
Maybe
that.
Westminster Abbey, possibly Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know. But his guts were so rotten, and it was such a hot day that his stomach exploded.
Oh, what a
Isn't that a nice
thought.
image?
Yes, he was syphilitic and he was huge and he was a mess of a man.
He sounds
by that
bloody
time.
gorgeous.
As a young man, he was. As a young man, he was considered one of the most attractive men in all of Renaissance Europe. He was much admired.
I prefer
Athletic,
syphilitic
musical,
and
poetic.
bloated myself.
Yes, he did get a bit bloated. I
least
can't
they're
understand
easy.
people who do. No, yes, it's an interesting fact. The real answer is 3 or 4. Henry's 4th marriage to Anne of Cleves was annulled on 2 grounds. It was never consummated, and she was already betrothed to Francis, Duke of Lorraine. This was correct in law at the time, and all parties agreed that no legal marriage had ever taken place. That leaves 5 wives. The Pope declared Henry's 2nd marriage to Anne Boleyn void because Henry was still married to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. And the king himself, as head of the new Church of England, declared that his first marriage was invalid on the correct legal ground that a man could not marry his brother's wife, and Catherine Aragon had been married to his brother Arthur.
Did he or did he not have 6 weddings?
Yes, he did, but that wasn't the question I asked.
And did he say, "This is my wife"? 6 different people. 6 different mothers-in-law all said of him, "He is my bloated syphilitic son-in-law."
But by his 2nd marriage, he said he'd never been married because he'd never had a wife, because his first wife he could not be married
What
to.
about all the family saying, "Yes, you did, we were there"?
We were there at the wedding, but we were never
We heard the
legally.
speeches, they'd wake up in the morning dead, wouldn't they?
But there was no legal spousal status. That's the point we're trying to make. But of
How
course,
many toast racks did he have?
that's the way. Count the toast racks and
Now,
you'll find out.
can I ask a question about that painting?
Yes.
Is it all wrong in perspective? It looks 2D to me.
All Holbein's pictures are a bit flat.
They
'Cause
are.
He did one of Martin Luther, and it's very flat.
Yes.
It's like a pancake or
Though
an
he could certainly do perspective tricks, because he did a marvellous one, which you have to see from below, didn't you? We may find a
Oh,
picture.
yeah,
of it
that's
one
what
day.
he said after he bollocked it up. You have to see it from below.
It was very...
Holbein's really
It was
made
a sort of
crap job
elongated
it.
skulls and things, and then when you move underneath it, the foreshortening effect of actually being under the painting, it suddenly becomes exactly the right proportion.
Michelangelo painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Good Lord, you are extraordinary. How do you do these things?
It took 4 years.
Yeah.
Which is the same length of time it takes to paint the Forth Bridge in Scotland.
You're struggling towards being interesting. I may have to give you 2 points. Does anyone remember there's a wonderful line in that film, The Agony and the Ecstasy, which is about Charlton Heston plays Michelangelo and Rex Harrison
Charlton
plays...
Heston plays Michelangelo?
Yes.
The effete Italian homosexual?
Yeah, that's the one.
Played by the president of the gun club?
He was an athletic Italian homosexual.
I thought he was a wussy one.
He may well have preferred man-on-man action. That doesn't mean he was Julian Clary. He could have been butch like me.
When I say wussy one, I don't mean he was gay. I mean he was a bit of a...
No.
I thought...
You've got it the other way round.
I thought Da Vinci was the hard case.
No, Michelangelo was an animal. He was physical.
Michelangelo was.
Strong,
he never washed.
Very strong.
He
that's
stank.
right. Beard and
Alan Yentob said this.
But he preferred to take it up with Gary Glitter. There we are. Now, depending on whether you believe the Pope or indeed the King, or both of them together, Henry VIII, therefore, had either 4 wives or 3. What did the ancient Greeks use blackberries for?
Tarts, pies, and occasionally a nice salad.
Is it to do with health or beauty?
It is to do with health, not really beauty. I think we'd be pushing it, but health.
They used to push them up their backside.
Yes.
To comfort them from the radish. When the radish came in, the blackberries would cushion the blow.
It's sort of almost true, because they used it as a specific against piles. And I dare say, having a few radishes hammered up, you would probably induce piles. Now, 1 in 10 ancient Athenians did it regularly until the Macedonians put a stop to it in 322 BC. What am I talking about? They're not doing it there, incidentally, in
That's
that
not a
picture
clue.
behind.
They pay their utilities bills by direct debit.
Would you recommend the direct debit route?
It takes the hassle out of it,
Does
Stephen.
it?
It takes the hassle out of it.
You can't put a price on peace of mind. So, what do Greeks...
Is it
What did they do?
Greek or something that a
Something Greeks
Macedonian
invented, something we do. Something we do.
We do it?
Something we do.
Oh, elections.
Yeah.
They voted. They voted for all their chieftains, all their leaders, all their wise men. They voted for their justice at the Areopagitica, and a democracy was born. It was snatched crudely away from them by the Macedonians. Invented, though, in ancient Greece.
Speaking of crudely...
Lasted only 180 years.
Pinto.
The Greeks regarded small testicles as rather artistic.
I'm a man out of his time.
You get 5 points for being British. Only 10% of the population ever had the vote. Greek women had to wait another 2,274 years until they finally got theirs in 1952. The patron saint of QI is the ancient Roman Gaius Plinius Secundus, better known as Pliny the Elder. His natural history is the great encyclopedia, covering all human knowledge at the time. Life, he said, is my subject, and he estimated that the 37 volumes that he wrote contained 20,000 important facts derived from 2,000 books. The 28th book of his magnum opus is what concerns us now, packed as it is with antidotes, state-of-the-art remedies culled from the great medical minds of the ancient world. So, Danny, what does Pliny confidently expect to cure by recommending that the patient eats the heart of a black jackass outside, out of doors that is, on the 2nd day of the moon?
Mumps. Excellent, I have no idea. So, there was a suggestion once that the key to eternal life lies in the elbow, and if it can be consumed, then you would live forever, which is why nobody, no matter how hard you try, can actually lick their own elbows. Even though...
Clearly, we were all the time.
I know the audience are now desperate to have a go, but it's so attainable until you come to here, and whether the theory came first or the curse came second... The idea that you cannot lick your elbow, but they say if you can, you will live forever.
But isn't that how socialism was invented, that someone said, come, let us lick each other's elbows?
It doesn't look good.
Well, the thing is...
So,
that no young man of licking age spent any time at all trying to lick his elbow.
question was, why would you eat the heart of a black jackass by the light of the
Well, it must be something awfully serious you'd have wrong with you. Because the heart of a... Now, where do you get a black jackass, anyway?
These days.
These days?
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Jackass.
Well, I'll tell you the answer.
Is it gout?
It's not gout. It's not gout. It's actually epilepsy. Although he also prescribes for epilepsy the consumption of lightly poached bear's testes, a camel's brain, dried and taken with honey, or in extremis, a draught of fresh gladiator's blood.
He doesn't mention Tegretol then.
No. Is that the specific that you favour?
Yes, it is. That's a specific drug for epilepsy.
Do you have epilepsy yourself?
No.
No, but you know those who do.
She knows loads about drugs.
Does she?
Yeah, because she's a nurse.
And a drug
Of course
addict.
she would. Do you think you could teach an octopus? There's an octopus.
Well, could I teach an octopus?
Well, yeah. What can...
I have seen an octopus.
Yes, good.
I went scuba diving.
I've seen one on a plate in a restaurant in Greece.
They use the ink to make risotto.
They do.
Do you know how octopuses mate?
Tell.
They mate with their third right arm.
Do they?
Yes.
We all do that.
Yeah, yeah, they use their third right arm to transfer the sperm to the female, which is kind of handy because it leaves the other 7 free to hold the kebab and the remote control.
Is it right they've got a brain per tentacle, or am I making that up?
No, you're not making it up, Clive. It's a matter of some debate amongst students of the octopus.
Oh, I'm glad to join in then.
It doesn't have a sort of discrete, separate brain, but some people believe that it needs such extraordinary neural power in order to control the thousands of different suckers separately, which it can do, that the sort of intelligence is located somewhere. Not exactly a brain as we know it, but they are very bright, and they can be made to recognise colours. But there's a particular trick they can be made to do, which is quite impressive.
And this is what we need to teach you.
Right.
Which it can be taught.
Play the drums. Play the drums?
You can... No. So good.
Assemble a drum kit really quickly.
It can unscrew. I can unscrew the lid off a bottle or some sort of container, yes. And it can take up to 10 seconds or an hour, depending on how tight the lid is. But the odd thing about it...
So it's like girls.
Yes.
Girls can't do that,
They loosen it first, as you well know.
The one thing that men can do now, because the women can see everything else apart from open jars.
Yes.
And once women work out how to do that, we're finished. Yeah. That's true. Now you've got octopuses to do it, you don't need...
We're doomed as a sex. The odd thing about them is they don't have very good memories. So they have to learn every day. So scientists can teach them, but they have to teach them each time how to do it. And they'll pick it up very quickly. But the next day, the same octopus will forget it.
They've got 3 hearts.
And they've got 3 hearts. I'll give you 5 points because that's quite interesting and true.
It is.
Very good.
Because if you cut one of the tentacles off, it will still reach for food.
If you could keep it in the kitchen, take the lids off all your jars.
Now, this third round is about actors. After weeks of being pointedly ignored on tour by Sir John Gielgud, Clive Morton, the character actor, plucked up the courage to knock on his dressing room door. Gielgud opened it. "Thank God it's you," he said. "For one dreadful moment, I thought it was going to be that ghastly bore, Clive Morton." Now, why, Hugh? Yes? Why does the actor Edward Woodward have 4 Ds in his name?
No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm sorry, it was a spasm.
You can't do that.
I'll put it out. Just carry on.
Did you know, this is quite interesting.
Yes, good. That's what we're here for.
Did you know?
Very good.
Kiwi fruit uses more than its own weight in aviation fuel to get from New Zealand to Europe.
Another 5 points. It sounds mad, but is of course true, absolutely.
And regarding the Edward Woodward,
yes,
that's how you spell it.
No, Hugh, no.
No, really, that's fine. I was going to say exactly that it's got that many D's in it because that's his name. If you took the D's out, it would be a different name.
And what name would it be? Exactly, it'd be Iwa-woo-woo. Iwa-woo-woo. It's a sort of structural device, like a joist, which stops his name collapsing into the sort of spongy mass of Iwa-woo-woo.
You were mentioning Edward Woodward, and before that you mentioned John Gielgud. John Gielgud, when he first heard the name Edward Woodward, said, It's an interesting name. It sounds like a fart in the bath.
It does. Very good. I want to talk a little about Alexander. He's worth it. According to one book, though God knows what kind of book it was, he was the 33rd most influential human being who ever lived. I don't know what sort of
Is that him there?
would write a book there. That's a representation of the
Oh, so he was great because there were 4 of him.
No, he was just in an early boy band.
And he could do that trick where he puts his eyeballs down and you just see the eye whites. What did Alexander the Great do with the banana and the ring-necked parakeet?
Party all night long.
Was he like
Well,
those
it's a hell of a
people
night.
that go into those people that go into casualty and say, "I was just hoovering and I slipped and it went."
It went.
I put the parrot in to get it out.
Well, no, the answer is actually that Alexander the Great introduced them to Europe. Yes, he brought along the banana, the ring-necked parakeet, sugar, cotton and crucifixion. All of these useful commodities or practices came from India, in fact, apart from crucifixion, which was invented by the Persians.
Persia's in Iraq now, isn't it?
No, it's Iran.
God, you're like George Bush, aren't you?
Now, back to Alexander. What was his hair regime, and which part of him was dipped in honey?
Henna.
Lemon juice.
Like henna, because, of course, redhead's very common in that part.
Jojoba!
Not
Where I come from, that's the month after September.
Very good. Very good. Very good, Billy Connolly. No, well, the answer is actually he washed his hair in saffron. To keep it lustrous and shiny orange. Quite right. Saffron, which was a seriously upmarket type of shampoo. Because at the time, saffron was as rare as diamonds and more expensive than gold. And all of him was dipped in honey, is the answer. When he died, he was embalmed in honey. What is the youngest age, think carefully, what is the youngest age that a child can knock back a pint of mulled wine or a couple of double brandies in a restaurant beer garden in the UK?
18.
Oh, dear. No. No, dear. No. Yes.
12, if you met him on the internet.
You can't have double brandy in a pub unless you're 18.
The answer is 5 years old.
Yeah.
What?
What?
5 years old. Yes. Yeah. It's only illegal for children between 5 and 18 to consume alcoholic drinks in the bar, a place defined by the law as chiefly or exclusively for the sale and consumption of alcoholic drinks. Pub restaurants and gardens don't count, provided the child has the drink bought by an adult.
Oh, they're not allowed to the bar.
They're not allowed to buy
How
it.
does the child get the round in then?
No, they don't. That's the beauty of being a child.
That's why the whole practice died out, because it wouldn't get around. Drink, not you.
Say wait.
Not you, either.
5. Describe either James Bond's Bradford or his Vespa.
Well, is James Bond's Bradford a bit like, is it James Hewitt as Yorkshire, or Thomas Hardy's Wessex? They're just rebranding it. So in describing
James Herriot, Rob. James Hewitt.
Yeah, sorry,
James Hewitt Spencer.
I sense I got it wrong there, but I
couldn't quite put your finger on
Is
it.
it an item of clothing or a briefcase or a pair of shoes?
No, it's... That's closer than
anything I said.
It's closer than the city in Yorkshire, certainly. Oh.
Is it?
What is he almost best known for?
Martinis.
Yes.
Ian Fleming worked in naval intelligence during the war.
He did. He did indeed.
Is that interesting enough?
Pretty well known, though, isn't it, dear? Yeah. Really. Sorry, did I call you dear just then? Yeah. Sorry. So sorry. How that happened. I do apologise. It's in fact the official name for a martini that is shaken and not stirred. Most martinis are stirred, but one is shaken. It's called a Bradford. They're very specific names. If you put 2 olives on a stick, it's called a Franklin, after Franklin Roosevelt.
Yes.
If you put a cocktail onion on the stick, it's called a...
It's called a cocktail onion on a stick.
Oh.
Well, obviously it's called something.
Yes, it's called the Gibson, yes. But in fact, because the Bradford contains 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 measure of an extraordinary sort of vermouth called Quina Lillet. It says, when looking at it, I'm sure it must be pronounced Lillet, I suppose. I mean, you put a Lillet in there, you wouldn't have any drip left, would you?
Why would you... If someone offered me a drink called a Bradford, I'd assume it's like vodka and a rasher of streaky bacon sticking out the top.
Maybe a pork pie on a knitting needle, something like that.
Well, is there an official place mud's names? I mean, why is a rusty nail called a rusty nail, and all the Collins family have drinks named after them? Is there a clearinghouse for this?
There are histories of this. I mean, the first Bloody Mary was actually was in St Regis Hotel in New York and was actually called a Red Snapper, which is rather a good name for
fish,
it.
though.
In Australia, they call
a Red Snapper.
They call a Virgin Mary. They call a Bloody Shame, which is rather good.
They're all very good.
All kinds of good names.
I'll have a bloody shame.
But no, I mean, of course, cocktails developed during Prohibition because the bathtub gin was so notoriously gut-rotting and tasting so dreadful that all kinds of additions were made to it. But Bond insisted on a shot of vodka, so he had it's usually 6 to 1, six gin to 1 of vermouth or vermouth, whichever you prefer, and he added this vodka, which makes it strictly not a martini, so the Bond actually gave his own name, which was a Vesper. There's a rather good phrase in one of the Bond books, to Bond, the best drink of the day was the drink he had in his head before the first drink of the day. Rather good, isn't it? We sort of know
I don't really
how
like
he feels.
James Bond.
No, he's cruel. He's a cruel man.
No, I don't think I'd like him. If I met him, I think I'd think he's a bit of a prat.
Yes.
I'm undoing your zip with my magnet.
Yes. No, Alan, you should read the books.
I don't have time to read the books. I haven't read all yours yet.
Well, no, that's...
nobody's done
read
that.
Fleming first. read Fleming first. They're awfully good. They really are. Now, this chapter Casino Royale begins. Bond lit his 80th cigarette of the day. Now, how can you dislike a man? I mean, that's... It's full of interesting stuff. For instance, Bond has these strange ideas. He has this idea that homosexuals can't whistle, for example. It occurs, I think, in Russia with Love. Yeah. I want you to go and stand in the corner.
You just put your lips together and blow.
I've had a blowjob.
You can easily say the word Wimbledon. Yeah.
Which is a cocktail. And you get it in a shooter glass, and it's got something like Drambuie or Bailey's or something in it.
Oh, how sophisticated.
And then it's got... and then it's got whipped cream out of a can on the top of it. And you get it put on the counter like that, and you're not allowed to use your hands to drink it. Hence, it's because someone grown it up. So you have to put your hands behind your back and go...
I've never been to Essex. Anyway... where do all the diamonds come from in the world?
South Africa.
Oh, no! He's done it again. No, all the diamonds in the world come from volcanoes. All diamonds are formed under immense heat and pressure, hundreds of kilometres beneath the Earth, and are brought to the surface in volcanic eruptions. 20 countries in the world produce diamonds.
Japan.
Just now, South Africa is only the 5th largest producer after Australia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Botswana, and Russia. You did. Well done, you. Now, here's a quite interesting thing. Diamonds are made of pure carbon, and so is graphite, the stuff that pencils are made from, the lead of a pencil. But with the carbon atoms arranged slightly differently, so slightly differently that diamond is the hardest known substance on Earth, with a score of 10 on the Mohs hardness scale, but graphite is one of the softest...
Like, as in Mo Better Blues?
No, as in MOH, the name of the fellow who gave us this hardness scale. Diamond score 10, and graphite scores very, very low, 1.2 or something like
what
that.
What about Audley Harrison?
He is well on. Who discovered Australia?
James Cook.
Oh, Joe, I'm so sorry. No, apart from the Aborigines, it was the Chinese who reached it as early as 1432. When Cook arrived, James Cook, in 1770, not only was he not first, he wasn't a captain either. He was Lieutenant Cook, nor was he the first European. The Dutch had got there 150 years before that. Nor was he even the first Englishman, who was William Dampier in 1688.
What's wrong with the Chinese and the Dutch?
The Dutch have discovered almost everything first, but they just thought of as being people, homosexuals who smoke joints. Actually, there's a lot more to them than that. A lot more to the Dutch.
But what is it with the Chinese that they went round really early on and then never went anywhere, just stayed at home and bred ferociously?
we're wandering happily around the globe, and this is a good thing, but I'll just return us to Australia. It has, of course, been inhabited by Aborigines for at least 40,000 years, possibly as many as 60,000. So if anyone gets the credit, it should be them. But what nationality were the original Aborigines? Yes?
They came across a land bridge which was later separated by shifting of tectonic plates.
Well,
so they will have come from Southeast Asia, probably. So I would say they were Chinese.
I know what you think. It's certainly true, isn't it? Australia was connected.
Separated, which is why
Yes.
they have marsupials. And why they have all their own brands of lager.
Exactly. I want you to think not Australian. The first Aboriginals were not Australian or anything to do with Australia. Where was the term Aborigine first used for peoples?
Was it in the Isle of Wight?
A wild stab. It could so easily have been right. No, it wasn't.
It's the word for the indigenous
Latin.
population.
The origin, yes. The original Aborigines lived in the part of Italy where Rome now stands. And they were called Aborigines. And so it's for some reason has stuck most with the Aboriginal Australasians, but there are Aboriginal Canadians. You could call the American Indians or Native Americans, you could call them Aboriginals if you wanted.
You could. But it was more fun to call them Redskins.
Yes. I wouldn't try it, though, in America. No. You'd have your balls turned into a small purse. We're doing very well. Now, what does...
A very big purse, I think you're...
What am I thinking
and
of?
have my balls turned into a rucksack.
Now, Sean, in 1913, the world long jump champion was an Englishman who could leap backwards from the floor onto a mantelpiece without losing his balance. What interesting position was he offered after the First World War? There he is.
But he's
Playing
cricket.
cricket. He was an extraordinary sportsman.
He could, what, when you said he could leap...
He could leap backwards from a stationary position onto a mantelpiece. Just leap. He was described by John Arlott as the most very talented Englishman ever born.
And how
He
did
was captained England and Surrey for cricket. He appeared in a FA Cup final. He had the world long jump record.
This isn't your relative, is it?
It is C.B. Fry, yes.
What I want to know is, how did he discover he could do that?
I suppose in phases.
How did you find out you can do that? You can just be standing in front of the fireplace and go... Wait, is it a really boring party? Lord Delfont was changing in turn for a canapé. Whoop, I'm out of it.
Maybe there was a rattlesnake on the floor or something like that.
Well, he was quite...
Somebody came in looking for a cocktail and said, I fancy a blowjob, and he would have...
No, he was a Fry. He would have welcomed it.
Just put himself in a better position. What's his name?
Charles Burgess Fry, C.B. Fry, the greatest all-rounder the country's ever produced. What extraordinary position was he offered after the First World War?
And also,
Chest of
but
drawers?
was that a mantelpiece with or without ornaments? Someone had a big tank of tropical fish.
Yeah. Competitive mantelpiece leaping, you just clear it. Yeah, you move most of the stuff off it.
Maybe he was on the mantelpiece, lost his balance, and thought, I must get back up before anyone's noticed.
Lost his balance, fell on the sofa, bounced back up.
Yeah. Then, well, blimey, did you just jump backwards onto that mantelpiece?
Or was it, one of these sports we play? It's a very old English pursuit, jumping backwards.
Yes.
And there's a famous canal jumper from the Black Country, someone like Jack Darby, and he could leap 32 foot across a canal from a standing jump. There's a statue of him on one of the canals. And the way he did it was weights. He had two weights in his arms, and he'd swing them like that, and then throw them, and they'd take him across, and he'd go to the other side. And his name was something like Jack Darby, and he died in the 30s. He died in the canal. He could also, he had the world... statues of the bottom of the commemorative stone. I think he had the world jumping backwards record, 13 foot.
Oh, there you are. Well, there you are. You see, it means something. Well, C.B. Fry, to bring us back to Charles Burgess.
I was thinking, did he not feel, you know, once he'd done the mantelpiece thing and everyone went, wow, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Right, that is so brilliant. After that, you think it maybe started to pall a bit. They think, oh, he's doing the mantelpiece thing again. Right?
It's the thing he did, probably... It was just a party piece he did 3 or 4 times. It wasn't enough that he headed the class list at Oxford. He had the world long jump record. He played in an FA Cup final, captained England and headed England batting averages for 4 years in succession, spoke 5 languages. And what was this extraordinary position?
Well, he was offered. He's obviously a member of the Fry family. You
well, that is extraordinary enough.
So he was offered the quizmaster on a panel game.
No, I would tell you.
He was the position by a governmental thing?
By the most governmental thing that existed after the First World War.
League of Nations.
The League of Nations.
So he was head of the League of Nations.
No, he was
referee. He refereed the playoffs for the League of Nations.
Lord
President of the
no,
League of
more
Nations.
important.
King of the League of Nations.
No, not of the League of Nations. One of the nations within the League of Nations.
Oh, he was king of Albania.
It was offered the throne of Albania.
Yes.
There you are. Finally, we got that.
And
Well
he
done.
said, I don't want the throne, just give me the mantelpiece.
Now, look, stop. I wish I'd never mentioned the bloody man.
How high is that?
It was just one of the many things he could do. All right, let's not refine on it. Let's not make it too big a deal. He did it once or twice. The reason he was offered it was his great friend was Prince Ranjit Singh. Together, he and Fry dominated the cricketing world. It was known as the golden age of cricket, still is. And Prince Ranjit Singh was an important officer in the League of Nations when it was founded. And he brought Fry along as a speechwriter to the League of Nations, and they met the Albanian delegation, which was rather unhappy because the king of Albania had been deposed and run away, and so they offered Fry the throne, and he accepted. But his friend Hilaire Belloc, the poet, said no. He said, don't accept it. He said, all you need is a cellar full of wine and the society of those who love you. Turn it down. So he did. What are atoms mostly made of?
Well, they are not most. They are just made of the thing that they are. In that they are not combined with other atoms. They are alone.
Yeah.
Therefore, they are just an atom.
It's not exactly a trick question, but they're mostly made of nothing by a very, very long way. Even the atom of stone or diamond is more nothing than it is anything solid.
Like a tiny, really small little piece of nothing. Does it have protons and electrons, or is that a molecule?
You're right, no. Protons and neutrons in the middle, which is the nucleus, and then the electron which whizzes round the outside.
I remember that from physics.
Yeah. An atom, in fact, is much, much emptier, relatively speaking, than the whole solar system. Ernest Rutherford, the first man to describe the inside of an atom, likened it to a few flies in a cathedral. That's what those little particles are inside the atom. The simplest element in the universe is hydrogen. It has a nucleus of just one proton, around which orbits a single electron. Now, if the proton were the size of a drawing pin, the electron would be the size of a pinhead, and it would be 1 kilometre away.
Yeah, but if I were to put a pineapple on my head, I'd look like Carmen Miranda, but I don't.
I don't think you quite entered into the spirit.
Well, they're really hard to divide up into more than one part.
Yes, because the word means that. It means no cut.
Can't split.
Tom, yes. I think it's tomeo is the Greek for I cut, and as in appendectomy, to cut the appendix and so on. And the rather wonderful English word tmesis, which, as far as I know, is the only English word that begins with the letters TM, T-M-E-S-I-S, which is rather wonderful. Which is that when you cut a word in half by putting another word inside, like saying absubliminutely or sensational or something like that.
Or
tmesis.
Scunthorpe.
Or Scunthorpe, thank you very much. Who was the first man to claim that the Earth goes round the sun?
Copernicus?
Oh, no! Not Copernicus.
Galileo.
Nor Galileo. No.
Galileo.
No, he will not do the flat land. No, wasn't the playwright.
Euripides' trousers.
No, it was a mathematician.
Sophocles. Archimedes.
No. No, not Archimedes.
Og the Clever.
His name is Aristarchus.
Yes.
Aristarchus of Samos.
He runs a restaurant on the 70th.
He was born in 310 BC.
He's still alive?
Whole 1800 years before Nicolaus Copernicus. Not only did Aristarchus suggest that the Earth and the planets travelled around the Sun, he also calculated the relative sizes and distances of the Earth, Moon and Sun and worked out that the heavens were not some celestial sphere, but a universe of almost infinite size. How many planets are there in the solar system?
9.
Oh, once again, not the right answer. It's another forfeit of 10, I'm afraid. I'm afraid the answer is actually 8.
I'm going to write them down. You carry
all
on.
right, OK.
Mars.
Yes, Mars is one.
Pluto.
No.
Oh, here we go again.
Pluto is a planet.
Goofy.
It was discovered in the 1930s. It was the most recent planet to be
It was
discovered.
discovered by Clive Tombaugh in 1930, exactly, yes.
But it's a collection of gases. It's not actually...
It's not a planet.
Not a planet.
By no criterion by which planets are judged could Pluto be said
It's really,
to be a
really
planet.
big, and it goes round the sun.
Yes, it's not really big at all. It's tiny.
Well, that's why it took so long to find. Don't be hard on it.
No, there are many others. There are many others of the same size that are going around the sun, which are not classified as.
I watched an entire BBC series
Called The Planets.
Called The Planets.
Yeah.
Banged on and on about there being 9.
There was a great movement afoot to discover the 9th planet. Hubble, the astronomer, had predicted there would be a 9th planet, and Clive Tombaugh in 1930 discovered Pluto and claimed that it was a planet. But almost everybody now has agreed that it isn't.
What is it then?
It's a tiny ball of ice. They're the sort of earthy solid planets, like Mars and Venus and
But they're not
Mercury.
those solid, because Uranus and is known as one of the gas
That's what I was
giants.
starting to say. There are the 4 Earth ones and there are the 4 gas ones. That's what I'm saying.
out with it and
But
say
Pluto is
Uranus.
neither. On the other hand, if Pluto can be said to be a planet, then so can the asteroids, already technically known as minor planets. In the year 2000, 71,788 of these, with more being discovered every year. Pluto is only twice as big as the largest of these, which is Ceres, and is not only much tinier than all the other planets, but is smaller than 7 of their moons as well.
Is there a rest stop between you and the end of this statement?
What man-made artifacts can be seen from the moon with the naked eye? Yes.
Someone said it in the audience.
What was it?
Great Wall of China.
Oh, you've done it again! I can't believe it!
Which moon are we talking about?
Rich Hall, I think I love you. That's a damn good. You've got to have 10 for that. The fact is, nothing man-made could be seen on Earth from the moon.
Too far away.
It's much, much too far away. Even the continents are quite different.
What's invisible and travels at 38 miles an hour?
Cashier number 4, please.
I think is it the air that we expel from our nasal passages.
It isn't that, I'm sorry to say.
38 miles an hour and it's invisible.
Yes.
Got to be a ghost on a moped, or a stealth Skoda, or a Virgin train.
Hey, no.
Is it... All right, OK. Is it a wind, like, you know, the Sirocco or the Mistral or something like that?
One of those winds. It's not one of those. This is something that often travels a great deal faster, but it has been recorded as travelling at 38 miles an hour. You could overtake it freewheeling on a bicycle.
A fart.
It usually goes much, much faster. I mean, really fast.
How fast is a fart, though?
No, well, no, please. That's not very high. No.
Well, no, because they've measured how fast you sneeze is.
Well, they've measured maximum speeds of...
no one's ever measured how fast
Well,
we
that's so
expel
varied, aren't they, as we know.
Do you wonder why?
Yeah.
You're working in laboratory conditions all day. There's Bunsen burners around.
Exactly.
You could fart and someone could be on the other side of the lab with a stopwatch, and they could go, yes, it's here.
Is it
Can I drag this
38
above
miles
the
an
level?
hour, I estimate.
Can I drag this above the level and they think this is all over or whatever it is?
Is it a tidal wave? A tsunami?
No, something goes even faster. What's the fastest thing you can think of?
Light.
Light is the right answer.
Is it?
Absolutely right. Light usually, as you probably know...
186,000 miles a second.
Very good. I'll give you a few points for that. That's quite great.
Oh,
Light...
so wait a minute. Someone slowed it down, didn't they?
Yeah.
They
Do you remember how?
No, well, was
So
it...
they could get into bed
ice
before the
or
light
something?
went out.
They put it...
That's the only reason there is physics.
Top work. No, you're quite right.
They put a laser light through, I don't know, ice, glass, something like that, frosty.
Even closer, much colder than that, much
Fridge.
Colder. No, really cold. We're talking colder than
Igloo.
Frozen
so cold.
vodka.
So much colder than that.
Blackpool.
You're all doing well. No, astoundingly, light is, first, invisible. You can't see it, only what bumps into it or it bumps into. If you could see it, you wouldn't be able to see anything else. It's often said that the speed of light is constant, but it isn't, only in a vacuum when it is 186,000 miles a second. In any other medium, the speed of light varies considerably. As a matter of fact, through diamonds, for example, it goes less than half as fast, 80,000 miles per second.
Is that because it's going, woo?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the hardest thing.
But the slowest it's ever been recorded at is through sodium at minus 270 degrees, where it travels at 38 miles per hour. Where does Santa Claus come from? Yeah.
From St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas.
Yes, what place?
The Bohemia, Czechoslovakia. No?
Not quite. No. God. Any thoughts?
Russia.
No.
He's an Aborigine.
No.
Woking.
No.
Lapland.
Bavaria.
Did you say Lapland? Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh.
And I just saw North Pole.
Yes, so you're not going to say that, are you? No.
Syria. Turkey.
Yes! Quite
Bingo.
right. Turkey, yes. And that was real Santa Claus, St. Nicholas.
Happy Christmas!
Yeah, but he was...
Tzatziki, vine leaves.
Sinterklaas, as they call him in the Netherlands. Yeah, Sinterklaas is aangekomt, is their little song. I'll give you some points if you can tell me where precisely our modern view, as it is, of Father Christmas comes from.
Does it derive from the Gemütlichkeit culture of that Prince Albert brought to Britain in the 1840s?
Again, you're just chiming with the thought that fills the room, but no.
Yes.
No. It's... No, the Schleswig-Holstein Gemütlichkeit culture is not an issue here. It is a very extraordinary thing. I want to take you to the year 1822.
Oh, when Schubert wrote the Unfinished Symphony.
Something else happened. A poem was written which absolutely gave us, for the first time ever printed or ever recorded, as far as we know, the idea of the white beard, the red coat, the stockings, the chimney, the presents on Christmas Eve, the whole thing. Americans still quote it every Christmas time.
It was the night before Christmas.
It was the night before Christmas. Clement Clark Moore, who was professor of Hebrew. The poem was called A Visit from St. Nicholas.
Off his face on Laudanum, just sitting there. A big fat man with a beard and a red coat. This is fantastic. And he's got a sack full of gripples. No.
From apples to something as American as apple pie, dodgy presidents. Richard E. Grant, this is for you. What ghastly blot on his reputation did your namesake Ulysses S. Grant share with John Prescott?
They both had a condition called erectus permanentus. Which is, no, it's serious. It is absolutely true. From, the age of 5, it's been at full woody mast the whole way through. Which is why John had to get into that Jaguar and travel that 1 mile distance, because Ulysses did the same thing in a carriage trip from a very small 18th century mile to Washington.
You've mentioned John Prescott's Jaguar.
Right.
And you've mentioned Ulysses S. Grant in a wooden cart.
Right.
Stick with that thought. Try and expunge woody masts from your mind for the moment and run with the idea of vehicles.
Parking offence.
Speeding. Two Jags Prescott
Right.
was banned from driving for 21 days in 2001 after he admitted going more than 100 miles an hour on the M1 and was fined £200. In the 3 previous years, he earned 9 points on his licence for speeding. The best reason he could come up with was that he didn't want his constituents to catch cold waiting for him. Now, 3 Buggy Grant received a speeding ticket while driving his horse and buggy in Washington, D.C. in 1869. He had to persuade the officer in charge that he was guilty, and he was fined £20.
God, was that a speed camera? Like a bloke, with a big black hood over him? And going, no, hold it, no, wait a minute. What's the minutes, I'll have this.
No, it was a sketch artist.
There's something very odd also that they both had in common. They both won rather extraordinary prizes. Ulysses S. Grant, as a boy, won a prize for taming a pony in a circus. But the prize that Prescott won
Very odd. 1951 in Brighton. The Prescott family won second prize.
Nobody needs?
The most typical family in Britain competition. Absolutely true.
But second.
Yeah, but second. But it should have been first because the winning family was found out to be distantly related to the organiser of the competition. So there was corruption, but not on the part of John Prescott. But there you are. Who invented the aeroplane?
It's Orville and Wilbur Wright.
Oh, I'm sorry to say, I'm very sorry to say that is the wrong answer.
Is it the Wrong Brothers?
It's not the Wrong Brothers. Very good, Peter. Thank you very much. No, John Stringfellow of Chard in Somerset successfully flew the first engine-powered aeroplane in 1848. It was a model aeroplane, but it was an aeroplane. It went quite a long way. The Wright brothers, from your lovely country of the United States of so on, they flew for less than 12 seconds a journey that actually would have covered less than half the wingspan of a Boeing jumbo jet, Orville and Wilbur.
But what about the hot air balloon?
Hot air balloon that I think is usually ceded to the Montgolfier brothers, isn't it?
I would think that would have been before the plane.
It was. It was in the 18th century.
Didn't the Chinese invent the hot air balloon in like
Stop harping on about the Wrong Brothers.
The Chinese invented a lot of things. We may indeed come to some of the Chinese inventions later on in the programme. Darts.
Football.
And, of course, China. It sounds odd, but it's true.
What struck me about your statement was that he was from a place called Chard.
Yeah.
Chard.
It's
that sounds like the kind of town you'd want to get away from.
Yes.
Chard.
Yes, he did run away and he moved to the village of Badly Burned in Dorset. Who invented, ladies and gentlemen, the telephone?
I'm not going to say it.
No.
I'm not going to say it.
No thoughts? No thoughts?
Aristarchus.
You're quite right. You're quite right. It's suspicious because the answer is certainly not Alexander Graham Bell. Right.
Who's the first person to do 2 baked bean cans and a bit of string? Who did
Not recorded, as far as I know.
Valerie Singleton invented the phone.
Valerie Singleton.
I know that Louis Daguerre, who invented the photography, typical bloke, see, he invented photography and a couple of days later persuaded a local barmaid to take her top off. Then you take a picture. That's blokes for you, isn't it, really? Yeah, like, I've invented photography, this wonderful...
Well, it was ever thus.
Who invented the telephone, though?
Do you want to know? All right, I'll tell you. Antonio Meucci, Italian-born scientist. He invented the telephone. He'd perfected it by 1871. Couldn't afford the patent. But do you know what happened? It was being assessed for a patent in the offices of Western Union. It fell into the hands of a young Scottish engineer called Alexander Graham Bell.
Making that.
Boo! He grabbed the chance and patented it in his own name. Meucci took him to court, but died before the judgment was given, leaving Bell to claim his place in history. What do we say to Alexander Graham Bell? Boo! Isn't that wicked? Isn't it as wicked as you get? Isn't that... It's wicked.
That's what we'd have said in Look at him. I don't even like the look at him. Look at him. He doesn't even know how to use it. He doesn't even know how to use it. You think you translate this? Back in the old...
No, let's have respect for this. This poor man... This poor man deserves respect. A quite interesting thing that Alexander Graham Bell said. He said when he was asked what the future of the telephone was, he said, I truly believe that one day there will be a telephone in every town in America. Which hand did King Henry VIII of England wipe his bottom with?
Anne Boleyn's.
Lovely image. Yes, Joe.
Can I suggest, in the hope that I get a wah, that he used someone else's, the servant? He didn't.
No, you get your full. I'll give you 5 points for that because it's absolutely right.
I bet that it's one of those jobs that's so unpleasant and awful, it's actually given really high status in the royal household.
You are absolutely right.
You make it bearable, you get all kinds of downstairs
aristocrats would
privileges.
fight over this job.
Were you the keeper of the King's chocolate starfish?
Well, no, you're
sheriff's
called
badge.
the groom of the stool. Palace assistant, despite its disgusting-sounding nature, it was a hugely important position, as Anna has intimated, and gets 2 points for doing so. The autocue says it was a big job, but I'm not going to read that. Incidentally, there is, ladies and gentlemen, the
groom of the stool.
The groom of the stool, Sir Anthony Denny, who was the longest-running groom of the stool.
Do you think he bent over and put his bottom out? Or did he roll on his back and put his knees right...
Do you know, I'd rather not think about it.
Did they have a kind of royal changing mat for the king to lie down on?
I'm sure they had the...
You get a bucket of water and go...
Well, it was a much-prized job because the amount of access, the amount of time one got to spend with the king. Another sought-after and rather...